22 as we continue through the life of Jesus Christ in chronological order. Jesus is only a few days away from his crucifixion. We're about day Tuesday of that final week of his life on earth. And in a few days he will be crucified. What we will see in this study is the Pharisees and Herodians who will try to trap Jesus in order to have him arrested and taken away. So as we learn about this, we'll see what they try to do. And this is something they desire to do. So let's pray. Father, we know that you love us. And if we don't, I pray you would help us to know. We thank you for your mercies in our lives. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your compassion and your care, for watching over us, keeping us safe. We pray for your help today, Lord God. We pray for the strength for every day and all that we need to do. We pray that you would provide for us the income we need so we can live in our houses and buy the food we have and the clothing and everything. And Father, once again, as you have heard me since last night, the burden on my heart is just rekindle relationships between husbands and wives. And I pray again this morning with the body here, Lord, that you would fall afresh on all the married people and their husbands and wives and rekindle that love. Strengthen them, Lord God, and draw them. Lord, for those who have separated and are apart, may you do something marvelous. Something that reveals your love to them and your compassion. I know often, Lord, people need you to give them the forgiveness that they need. They need the conviction of the Holy Spirit to correct them and help them understand that what they might be doing is not right. So I lift this up to you, Lord, as it's been placed on my heart, and I ask you for the help that's needed, Lord God. May you watch over us, Father. May you bless this study. May the nuggets of your truth be revealed to us, especially to these younger kids that are here this morning, Lord. It's often a little harder for them to be in an adult service, but we pray for them. We pray that you would speak to them and help them to know you, Lord. In Jesus' name. Yes, Lord. Amen. Amen. So Matthew 22, as the Pharisees and Herodians try to trap Jesus, and this is what they're supposed to do, in Luke chapter 20, verse 20, we read this. It tells us, so they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be righteous, that they might seize on his words in order to deliver him to the power and the authority of the governor. So we see that as Jesus is heading towards the cross, and they don't really know this, what they don't like is what he's doing. They don't like that he's teaching something different than the actual law. Because he's coming in to teach about grace and forgiveness. And they don't like it, so what they're going to do is to try to trap him. So Luke wrote that they had already sent spies out to try to catch him in a lie, that they might bring him before the authorities, bring him before the courts. So after speaking of the rejection of the Jews from last week, we come into a different subject. And the rejection of the Jews, I don't know if I made it clear last week, but with them rejecting the Jews, we are the guests on the highways that are brought in. So the Gentiles come to faith and are invited to the wedding supper of the Lamb. That's how we come in. And so as we think about all that's taking place, this whole last week of Jesus is interesting because it's Passover time, remember? There are about 2 million people coming into the city of Jerusalem. That's a lot of people. 2 million people in the city of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is not a very big city to begin with, and it's a lot of mountains. And all those people are there, and during this week, because Passover involves a lamb that must be sacrificed, the high priest examined lambs. And they examine them because a lamb cannot have one blemish, not one spot out of that should be on them. It should be pure. And they examine these lambs so that they can sacrifice it, because it has to be a pure lamb. What is happening here with Jesus on this last week, as they keep challenging him, they are examining him just like that lamb. Because remember, Jesus will be crucified for the sins of man, for the ultimate forgiveness. And so he is going to be examined, and I don't even think the Pharisees and Herodians or the Sadducees that we talked about before, I don't think they understand what they're doing. They don't even know that they are actually examining him as a perfect man, and they'll never find nothing wrong, because why? He's God manifested in the flesh. So Jesus is the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. So that's something to keep in mind. So then we're told in verse 15, I'll read a little bit. Then the Pharisees went and plotted how they might entangle, that is, trap him or trick him in his talk. So it's their words, his word that they're looking for. The things that he's saying, because he's been teaching something a little different than what they're used to. He teaches on forgiveness. He heals on the Sabbath. He does things contrary often to what they believe and think, because they are legalistic. Verse 16 says, and they sent to him his disciples, to their disciples, and the Herodians, saying, Teacher, we know that you are true, and teach the way of God in truth. Nor do you care about anyone, for you do not regard the person of men. Tell us, therefore, what do you think? Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? So there's a couple of things here that we see. We see the Pharisees and Herodians. Okay, the Pharisees, for some of you who don't know who they are, they follow the teachings of Moses. The first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. They teach from that. They follow that. It's a religious, zealous walk that they have and practice. They try to separate themselves from all sinful things as they follow the law of God, those first 5 books. Man, I used to know the number. I think 50 in Genesis, 34 in Exodus, 36 and 1. I don't know. I used to know all the chapters, how many. But that's a lot of chapters to follow. That's a lot of things to remember and to practice. And that's what they did. The Pharisees also hated the Romans, because Roman occupied Israel, or Palestine, or Canaan, whichever word you're more familiar with. And so because of that, they didn't like the Romans, because they were invading their land. And the Pharisees, because of that, would not want to pay tax. Because see, the question is here in verse 17, tell us therefore, what do you think? That's the question. Is it lawful? That's another thing to keep in mind. To pay taxes to Caesar, Caesar representing the government, or not. And so the Jews didn't want to pay taxes because it was supporting the Roman and the Roman government. And so they want to know, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to pay these taxes or not? So that's the question, because the Pharisees did not believe in paying taxes. In fact, there was some zealots who would start up a protest and not pay, just to try to hinder the work of the Romans. Now, the Herodians were a political party, okay? They weren't religious in nature. They were a political party. And they followed the rulings of Herod. Herod was the government, and it was passed down to Herod, who we have now, or Caesar gave it to Herod, and they supported Roman rule. They liked the authority of Rome. They were provided by Rome. And the Herodians like paying taxes. They were not concerned with Jesus being Messiah per se. They were just concerned about the things that he was teaching, and because of the Jews not wanting to pay taxes, so they're at odds with the Jewish people. But they like paying taxes because tax money pays for things. So they come together to ask Jesus a question. And when you think about this question, they first start by flattering him. We know you're true. We know you're true. We know that you teach the way in truth. So they're trying to play on his ego. They're trying to pat him on the back and say, we know these things about you. We know you're an honest man. We know the things you believe are right. And so what I think they were doing was trying to kind of pat him, because when you give compliments, people tend to relax and say things. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to catch him in something that they might put him to jail or arrest him. And so they're trying to catch him. So they ask this question. It's a trick question, because they don't really care about they care about the taxes, but that's not what they really cared about when they were asking this question. They were asking because they wanted to catch him in a lie. Now, the interesting thing is that Jewish people, men from the age of 14 to 65 had to pay, it's called the poll tax. They had to pay this tax from 14 to 65. The females had to pay from 12 to 65. You might ask, well, why did the girls have to pay earlier than the men? Girls usually did a lot of stuff earlier than men. They helped around with things like chicken eggs and other stuff, and they would make money, so they would have to pay taxes through that. So they're asking Jesus this question. I'm not concerned about the taxes. You know what I found interesting is the word before that. Is it lawful? That's what the Lord put my attention in. Is it lawful? Is it right to do this? That's the question. And so they come to Jesus and they ask that question. But Jesus, he knows what they're doing. So verse 18, he says, but when Jesus perceived their wickedness, and perceived, of course, means he was aware of. He knew what they were doing. You ever talk to people and you knew they were trying to set you up? Yeah. You knew they were trying to, salespeople have a bad rap. But when you can read salespeople, you can avoid contracts, right? 5-year contracts, 10-year contracts. How many have gone to buy a new car? How many you went to just to look for a new car, but ended up buying a new car? That's because the salesperson was really good. They know how to sell. And so Jesus knew, and we need to have that kind of instinct within us, where we know when people are trying to get over on us, when they're trying to use us or misuse us, I should say. And so he perceived, he was aware, and it says of their wickedness. It means plots, things they were trying to do. So they weren't fooling Jesus one bit. And he said, why do you test me, you hypocrites? He calls them a hypocrite as an actor, or someone who's false, who pretends to be something that they're not. So they're flattering him, and he looks at them and says, you know what, you're just a hypocrite. That's a word I didn't really hear a lot of until I came to church. And then I would hear people say, I don't go to church because there's a lot of hypocrites. And when I got involved in church, it was true. There's a lot of hypocrites in church, unfortunately. But I also learned one of the reasons why there's a lot of hypocrites in church is because no one gets saved and becomes perfect the moment they give their life to Jesus Christ, right? And if you were perfect the moment you gave your life to Jesus Christ, and are you perfect now? Right? So in the beginning, there's a lot of worldliness in us, and we're learning about the things of God. And as we learn and we walk, and the longer we walk, so then months pass and years pass and decades pass, the hypocrisy of our lives should fall away, and we should resemble more of Christ in our lives. But in the beginning, the first whatever amount of years it takes for God to do a lot of purifying, changing, there are compromises in our life. It's just the way it is. So yes, there's a lot of hypocrites in church. But people use it another way. You know, they're not perfect, they shouldn't be there. That's how I came up with this idea. When I was teaching the drug and alcohol class, and people would come up and, you know, they would always say, man, it's hard to be a Christian. And I hate telling people I'm a Christian because they expect me to be perfect. And I said, don't tell them you're a Christian. Well, isn't that a denial of my faith? No. Tell them you're a disciple. Well, what's a disciple? A disciple is a student, a learner. Especially if you're brand new. Let's say the first year. Give yourself time just to learn. And don't tell them. And when they ask you, well, what's a disciple? Say, you know what? I'm learning about Jesus Christ right now. I'm learning about things I didn't know before. You know, I'm trying to be a Christian, but I have to learn. And it takes the pressure off. And I've got a couple of slack for that. I think it's smart when you're brand new and you don't know the Bible. Because they're going to point the finger and they're going to say, why don't you do this? And how come you're doing that? And all these things that, like, man, I just got here. I don't know anything. How many of you can, you know, go somewhere and I use well, I don't want to use that amusement. We'll use an amusement park. We'll say Magic Mall. And you go there, your first time, you've never been there in your entire life, and someone says, well, I'll meet you at the, you know, Red Robin's over by the carousel. Well, where's that? Do you know where that's at? No, because there is no Red Robin by the carousel. but the idea is this. You can't know what you don't know, even though you're there, right? You're at Magic Mountain, you're in the gate, and everything's available, and people are telling you, but you don't know anything because you haven't been through it yet. Now, once you've gone through it, do you think you're going to remember everything? No, you got to go again. Now, we've been there enough times that I can tell my kids, I'll meet you here, and they know exactly what we're talking about. Because we're familiar with it. Same thing with the Lord. We got to get familiar with Him. We got to understand who He is. So yes, they are hypocrites. But Jesus here knows the hypocrites here that He's talking about are genuine, phony, baloney, pretenders trying to accomplish something, and that accomplishment is to get them arrested. That's what they're trying to do. So their hypocrisy is real. It's not that they don't know, it's that they do know, and there's a big difference with that. So he says, why do you test me, you hypocrites? And then he says, show me the tax money. And so they brought him a denarius. Now, show me the tax money. Show me what you're talking about. Jesus didn't have any money, remember? He had to pay the tax one time, and they said, are your disciples not going to pay the tax? He says, Peter, go fishing. Remember that story? Go fishing, Peter. And Peter caught a fish, and in the fish was a denarii. And he took it out and he paid the tax. Jesus had no money. Jesus didn't need no money. And so Jesus tells them, show me the tax book. Of course, most Jews would not even carry that kind of money. They used the temple coins for most, except when they had to pay the taxes. And so they bring them a denarii. A denarii is called a penny in your Bible. Maybe it says a penny. It's worth about 15 cents. So, you know, our penny doesn't kind of relate, but that's what they called it, is a penny. It's a denarii. It's a Roman silver coin at the time of Jesus that was used to pay people. Remember the laborer in the vineyard? They worked for a day. The first one came and they promised them a denarii, and then one came at noon and they promised them a denarii, and then later some came at the 1 hour before work, and when the owner decided to pay, he gave them all the same. He gave them all a denarii, and there was a big upset because he gave the guy that worked 1 hour the same as the guy that worked 12 hours, and they didn't like it. It was a day's wages, and so it was used to pay people with their things. So he says, show me the denarii. The denarii is a Roman coin, so each emperor who became emperor would mount the coins of the previous emperor and then refashion him and put his face on the coin. So his face would be there as the new government and the inscription. So they had their own coins, you could say. And so that's what they did. And then in verse 20 he said, and when he said to them, whose image, whose picture and inscription writing is this? What he says is, okay, you have the denarii, take a good look at it. And you tell me what's on it. What do you see? And of course they look and say, verse 21, and they said to him, Caesar's. Caesar's image is on that coin. Jesus, as smart as he is, he said to them, well then, render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar, and to God the things that are God. So, render. Give back. Give back what the government has provided, what the government has used in their form of currency. You give back to them what they've given to you. So you have a coin from Caesar, then give it back to them. That was his answer. It was brilliant. Because he wasn't saying it's okay to pay taxes, or he wasn't saying it's not okay to pay taxes. He said, what are you paying with? You want to know if it's lawful? Show me the coin. That coin's not from God. That coin belongs to the government. You're going to use that coin, then you're obligated to follow the laws of that coin. So they give you that for a form of payment, then you pay back with the same form that they have given you. So he said, render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar, and to God the things that are God. Why? Because the image on the coin had Caesar's image, and the writing had the writing about Caesar, and so he basically says, just give it back. That's my answer to you guys. Then he says, the second part of that is render the things to God that are God, and to God the things that are God. That's an important statement as well. Why? Because we as Christians, as them as Jews, we're followers of God. The image of God is on every single person ever created on this earth. In Genesis chapter 1, very beginning of the Bible, verse 27, we're told this. So God created man in his own image. Man, you and I, Adam and Eve, were created in the image of God. We belong to God. We are created by God. And when God created Adam and Eve, he created within them the ability to reproduce. That's where we're here today, right? Amen. Had they not had the ability to reproduce, there'd be no other people. Simple, right? Like we talked about Thursday, the apples and the seeds of an apple. Same thing. Man has had the ability to recreate within them. The fruit would come forth and the child would come forth. And so he says you are created in the image of God. And so what is Jesus saying? He says, you know what? You give to Caesar, you pay your taxes with the money that Caesar gave you. But you must also remember that you are to give to God the things that belong to God. Now this is tricky. So what's happening here? What's happening is that as we live on this earth, we have dual citizenship, right? Our citizenship as Christians is in heaven, but we also live on this earth. And this earth we are obligated to because we are part of this earth. So we have dual citizenship. So what is he basically saying? He's saying, when you use the currency of the government that you're involved with, you need to pay that currency back, whatever they demand or desire. Now I've had people come in here maybe 4 or 5 over 20 years that always challenge me about we shouldn't have to pay taxes. And because they're Pharisees, they just don't want to pay their fair share of what's been given to them. And the Bible nowhere teaches that. The Bible actually tells us we're to follow the laws of the land, and we need to pay those taxes and follow those laws. But at the same time, we also need to be honest about it and follow the laws of God. Now, you've heard me say several times lately, it's really weird about being honest in your dealings and going back when you were charged, 2 burgers at McDonald's, but they gave you 4. And you go back and say, man, you order 4, they charge you for 2, and you go back and you say, you know what, you didn't charge me for the 2 extra burgers, and I need to pay for that. Well, how many of you heard me say when you pastor and teach, you're always going to be tested? Not always, but a lot of times you're tested. Well, I went to Lowe's the other day, and I bought some carpet. And when I got to the register, the lady told me it was $36. And I go, $36. So I paid it, and I had a few other items, So I'm just like puzzled. Oh, that doesn't make sense to me, man. There was a line, so I got out the way. I put the carpet in my thing, and I was just gonna never mind. Don't even think about it. Just go. But I couldn't, because the Holy Spirit in me kept saying, no, you need to figure this out. And I'm like, I'm just going to go home, who cares, blah, blah. And I sat down, I'm looking, man, they only charged me it was 2 separate carpets because I'm doing the stairway. And they charged me for 2 separate carpets, but they're 3 feet wide, and it's per linear foot. So 1 foot, 12 feet is $21, $42, $36. They charged me for 2. I had 6. So basically, I owed them $84. Well, that's a lot of money to say, who cares, man? That's a great savings. And I go, okay, Lord, I know you're testing me. I know I have to go back in there. I really don't want to go back in there, but I know I have to go in there. And so I went in and told the lady, she says, not many people would do that. I said, well, the truth is I don't want to be here either. I'm nobody, I really don't want to be here either. I would rather save the $80. And then, they have that thing and it says, is this the right amount? I said, now they want me to say yes, that's the right amount. They want to charge me extra. It wasn't extra, but see, we have to be, the God in me, I have to do what's right. The man in me wants to take advantage of stuff and not do it. But I'm supposed to pay the system of the world what they're asking for, whether it's carpet or taxes or whatever. That's why the word, is it lawful, is more important to me than to pay taxes. Is it lawful? Is it right? Because that's what it comes down to. Is it right to do this or that? To buy this or that? Whatever it is it right? That's what we have to ask ourselves. I know what's right for me. I know my loyalty is to God first. I use the acronym for myself. I'm a CAM. I'm a CAM. I'm a C. I'm a Christian first before anything else. I'm first a Christian. Secondly, I'm an A. I'm an American. I live in this country. I am an American. And thirdly, I'm an M. I'm a Marine. Don't mess with me. So I'm a CAM, right? I'm a Christian American Marine. That's who I am. That's my identity. I follow God. I live in the America, and I am an American citizen, and I am proud to be that, and I'm also a Marine, which I'm proud to be. So I'm a CAM. I don't know what your acronym is, but I'm a CAM. And the top of that is the C. I don't call myself a Mexican American. I don't call myself anything but a Christian, because that's who I am. Now, I used to be proud of the Mexican American, but you know what? I'm not as proud of that anymore, because I'm more Christian than I am anything. That's what I belong to, Christ. And so, as a CAM, as a Christian, I'm going to do what's right before God. As an American, I'm going to do what's right for our country. And as a Marine, I'll fight whatever needs to be fought. That's all there is to it. So, when they say, is it legal? I know what's legal for me. I know what the Bible teaches me is legal for me. And I need to follow those things. So, do I follow the government? Yes. Galatians chapter 5 also tells us, Galatians 5 verse 16, it tells us this. I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the lust of the flesh against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary to one another. And I'm quoting another scripture, but I'll bring it back. So that you do not do the things that you wish. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now the deeds or the works of the flesh are evident, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, contentions, jealousies, outbursts of anger, selfish ambitions, dissensions, heresy, envy, murderers, drunkenness, rivalries, and the like. In other words, there's more. Of which I tell you beforehand, just as I also told you in times past, that those who practice such things, that's a key word, who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. Now Galatians gives us and points out the things that God tells us we should not do. And if we practice them, we are heading to the place of we will not make it to heaven. Now, not everything is illegal in our world, but it is with God. So, when the law says it's okay to commit adultery, and God says it's not, I got to do what God says. When the law says it's okay to be a fornicator, that's to have sex outside of marriage. It's okay. No one gets arrested for sleeping with someone. There's no charge. But that's not what God says. God says contrary to that. The law might say it's, it doesn't say it's okay to worship idols. As a Catholic, we had the statues and the things, and there were idols to us. Or sorcery, which is drugs. Sorcery is drugs. Now, drugs are becoming legal more and more. Drugs have a vital part in our society. They're good for pain medication. They can help, ease some stuff. But if we abuse them, we become drug addicts, right? But see, the laws can change to fit what the society wants to do. The other thing is drunkenness. Drunkenness is not illegal. You can get drunk in your house. No, they can't bother you. You can't drive and drink. That is illegal. But God says you shouldn't be drunk at all, period. You should never be a drunkard. Because all of these things, he said, those who practice, and that means they repeat this over and over, everyone who does these things, he says, they will not inherit the kingdom of God. So see, the government can change laws, but does that mean I'm free to do these laws?
No.
No, by no means. I'm not. Because I have a greater law, and that is the law of God. And the law of God always comes first before the law of man. I don't care what man says. They can legalize homosexuality. It's still wrong in God. Romans chapter 1. They can legalize all kinds of stuff. But the Bible is clear about what things are not permitted. And what things will be practiced. And those who do not see this, they risk losing their inheritance in the kingdom of God. Why? Because they're not putting God first, and they're not making sure that what he says is what is followed. In 1 Peter chapter 3, when Peter wrote, he said this, verse 13, therefore, submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake. In other words, follow what's going on in your country with your laws. And it says, for the Lord's sake. Whether to the kings as supreme, that's the governors, presidents, those in power, or to governors as to those who are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers. Who were they sent by? God created government. He's the founder of it. And for the praise of those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good, you may put to silence the ignorant of ignorance of foolish men, as free, yet not using liberty as a cloak for vice, but as bondservants of God. Honor all people. Love the brotherhood. That's for us, the family of God. Love the brotherhood. Fear God. Reverence God. Honor God. Make sure God is on top. And then he says, honor the king. That's the president. Which we don't see that today in this country and others. But in our country, there is a lack of honor. Half. I won't be fake news and say, we all should love the king. We all hate the king, because it's not true. It's half. The thing you hear on the news is, all Americans don't like that. That's not true. Half of Americans don't like it. Half do. And so here it says, honor the king. We're supposed to honor the president. We're supposed to honor those in high places. Romans 13:1 says, let every soul be subject to the governing authority. Subject. Follow it. For there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. So right there, he's telling us the governments came by God. God's the one that started the government. And the government answers to God. They might not think they do, but they answer to God. Each elected official will stand before God, because they're going to have a greater judgment for the things the laws they make or disapprove of, the people they've hurt in their laws, and they're not going to be scot-free. They might think they're becoming millionaires off the government and the people, but they're still going to answer for it. And they're not going to like the answer they're going to get, because God has a plan for them as well. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 1, it says, therefore I exhort first of all that supplications, prayer, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men. So that's everyone. Your friend, your neighbor, your enemy, everyone should be prayed for. For kings and for all in authority. Oh, who? For the government. Everyone in authority. The mayor, the governor of our state, the president of our country, the police officers, everyone. They should all be prayed for. They should all be thanked. For all men, for kings, and for all in authority, that we may lead, here's why you do it, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and reverence, honor. So Paul writing to Timothy says, listen, you need to pray for those leaders and officials. You might not like them, but you need to pray for them. Whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them. Since I've come to the realization of this, I prayed for every president, whether I agree with them or not. Every governor. It's hard. It's hard to pray with someone you disagree with, but we're still called to pray. And then he says, what for? So we can have a better life. We need to pray, and there are times we need to take action too. We are privileged. We get to vote in people, and the majority wins. It's just the way it is. Like it or don't like it, it's the way it is, and that's the form of government we have. So here in Oregon, it's mostly Democratic, and you're going to see a lot of Democratic people elected until they really mess up, and then you're going to see Republicans elected until they really mess up, and it's just back and forth. It's just the way our society is done, and we hope and pray that people will do the right thing no matter who they are, no matter what party they are. We just hope and pray they do the right thing. And so we have the scripture clearly telling us we're supposed to honor the government, pray for them, yes, give to Caesar the things that are Caesar, pay the taxes that you do, be fair. Is it lawful? That's what you have to ask yourself. And once you can answer that question according to God's word in your heart, then you're obligated to do whatever He's told you to do. The Bible's clear about it. we have a responsibility. Why? We have dual citizenship. We're citizens of earth. We're also citizens in heaven, just waiting to be taken up. That day will happen. Paul wrote this in Acts 5:29. We ought to obey God rather than men. In other words, God comes first. See, what happened was they were preaching the word, and the leaders of the city came out and told Paul and the other guys, you can't do this, it's illegal. And Paul said, well, you know, I'm going to obey God rather than your law. There's a time to break the law. And that time to break the law is when it comes against God's word. Now, I'm going to say this very clearly, because I've seen this problem almost from the beginning of my salvation, because I did it wrong myself. And when you do something wrong, hopefully you learn, right? You say, oh, I didn't know that. You take that verse and you say, you know what? I'd rather obey God than men. Okay, that's fair. So what about at work? I'm getting paid $8 an hour to work at a company. And then I see Glenn there working. I say, hey man, you met the Lord? Have you talked to him? Has he answered your prayer? Do you know he loves you? And then my foreman Eve comes over and says, hey, I'm not paying you to share the gospel. Hey, no, I get to share the gospel because I'm going to obey God rather than men. Is that right?
No.
No, it's not, right? See, that verse, you can't take it that way. Because I'm being paid by someone to work, not to be an evangelist. If I want to be an evangelist, I need to quit my job and go and evangelize. That's the right way. So you do it at lunch or break time. Unless you're lucky and you can work and your boss doesn't care that you share the gospel, then do it as long as there's no complaints. But if they ask you, no, you can't. But in my personal life outside, yes, God comes first. But at work, it's not that God's first. God is first through my actions, through my attitude, through my character, my honesty at work, my integrity at work, being on time at work, not taking a 20-minute lunch break when I'm only entitled to a 15-minute lunch break, not making personal calls instead of working and doing what I'm supposed to. See, my life is still in God. He's still first, and what I do represents Him even at my job. If you have that attitude, you'll find that God will honor you at some point. You might get passed over for a raise because you're a Christian, but then again, you might get a raise because God is going to honor you anyway. We never know with God. What we know is He's looking at us. He wants us to represent Him, and that is always in life and in our Christian walk. See, God doesn't want hypocrites. He wants believers. And so He tells them, Jesus tells them, listen, your problem is not the tax, your problem is the understanding of this whole system. You don't know there's dual citizenship there. I mean, these are religious people, except for the Herodians, they weren't really religious. But so I share my faith when I'm able, and if not, I can't. Verse 22 says, and when they heard these words, they marveled, they were puzzled, they blew their mind. And they left Him and went their way. You know what? They were surprised at what He said, and they went away just thinking about it. Whoa, what the heck? That wasn't the answer we were expecting. We were expecting a flat out yes or a flat out no. A yes for paying taxes would have ticked off the Pharisees, and a no would have ticked off the Herodians and the Romans. But Jesus didn't say that. He brought it back. He said it, but another way. Hey, whose picture's on that? Give to God, give to Caesar things that are Caesar, and give to God the things that are God. You need to do both. That's our responsibility on this earth. We represent God. He comes first. I'm a cam. Well, what are you? A ram, a jam? Whatever you are, but Christ should be first and represented. Father, we thank you for your word.